In our chaotic world, most people believe there are only two ways to protect themselves emotionally. Either become completely vulnerable and risk getting hurt constantly, or build walls around your heart and become cold and distant. You've probably heard people say things like, "I can't show weakness," or "feeling too much only leads to suffering." But what if I told you there's a third way? A path that lets you be emotionally protected without losing your humanity. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychologists in history, discovered something remarkable. True emotional strength doesn't come from coldness. It comes from learning to hold contradictory feelings at the same time. The myth of coldness as protection. Let's be honest. Our culture teaches us that to survive emotionally, we need to become cold. Think about the strong characters we see in movies. Distant, controlled, never crying, never hesitating. They seem untouchable because they've basically shut down their humanity. But here's what Jung realized through years of working with patients. When you try to protect yourself by becoming cold, you're not just blocking out pain, you're blocking out everything. Joy, love, genuine connection, even your ability to read people accurately. The same wall that keeps the arrows out also keeps life out. And here's the kicker. Coldness actually makes you more vulnerable, not less. When you disconnect from your emotions, you lose your instincts, your intuition, the very things that could actually protect you from manipulation and harm. Jung saw this pattern over and over. People who seemed strong and armored on the outside would eventually crack. They'd have panic attacks, chronic anxiety, explosive anger for no apparent reason. It's like their unconscious mind was screaming to be heard. The transcendent function, AN, Jung's revolutionary idea. So if coldness doesn't work, what does? Jung discovered something he called the transcendent function. Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Think about this. Inside every person, there are opposing forces at war. You might love someone deeply, but also need strong boundaries with them. You might feel hurt by criticism, but also recognize there's truth in it. You might want to trust again after being betrayed, but also feel the need to protect yourself. Most people think they have to choose a side. Either love completely or protect completely. Either trust or build walls. But Jung said, there's a third option. Hold both feelings at the same time and let them create something new. The transcendent function is your ability to say, I can love you and set boundaries. I can feel hurt and still have compassion. I can be strong and sensitive. It's not about finding a weak middle ground. It's about creating a higher level of strength that includes both opposites. The battle between ego and self. To understand how this works, you need to know about Jung's most important discovery. The difference between your ego and your true self. Your ego is the voice in your head that says, I am this type of person, I like this, I hate that. It's the part that tries to control everything and protect you from any pain. Your ego thinks it's running the show, and it desperately wants simple answers and absolute security. But your true self is much bigger. It's the part of you that can hold contradictions, that knows you're more than just your fears or your desires. When you're connected to yourself, you don't need to defensively react to every criticism or rejection, because there's something solid at your core that can't be shaken. Here's what's fascinating. The more your ego tries to protect you through control and walls, the more disconnected you become from your true self, and the more vulnerable you actually are. People who live in constant defense mode are often anxious, bitter, and ironically, easier to manipulate. Holding the tension, an art of not choosing sides. The key to Jung's approach is something he called holding the tension. This might be the most challenging but powerful concept you'll ever encounter. When someone betrays you, everything inside screams for immediate relief. Either explode with anger or shut down completely. Either forgive everything or cut them out forever. But holding the tension means sitting with both the pain and your capacity for understanding. It means saying, I'm hurt, but I'm not destroyed. I can acknowledge this pain without letting it define my future. It's like being in an emotional laboratory. When you mix two opposing chemicals, the heat of conflict can create something entirely new. But if you pour out one chemical to avoid the reaction, nothing transforms. You just have the same old ingredients. The alchemical process, AT, turning pain into gold. Jung was fascinated by medieval alchemists who tried to turn lead into gold. He realized they weren't just doing chemistry, they were describing something psychological. Every time you consciously work through pain instead of avoiding it, you're doing the same thing, transforming something heavy and dark into something valuable. Think about someone who's been through a devastating betrayal, but came out stronger, wiser, more compassionate. They didn't just get over it. They let the experience teach them about boundaries, self-worth, and the complexity of human nature. That's psychological gold. This creates what Jung called transparent shielding. You become protected, but you're not walled off. You can still love, still feel, still connect, but you're not easily knocked down by other people's drama or manipulation, living it in real life. So how do you actually do this? How do you love someone while maintaining boundaries? How do you stay open without being naive? It starts with recognizing that you don't have to choose between being strong or being sensitive. You can be both. When someone criticizes you, instead of immediately defending or immediately accepting, you can pause and ask, is there truth here? Is this about me or about them? How can I respond from my true self rather than my defensive ego? When you're hurt, instead of either exploding or shutting down, you can say, I'm in pain right now, and that's okay. This pain is information, not a command. What is it trying to teach me? The path forward, becoming truly untouchable. Real emotional invulnerability doesn't come from having no feelings. It comes from having such a strong connection to your true self that external chaos can't knock you off balance. You feel everything, but you're not enslaved by any of it. You can love deeply and set firm boundaries. You can be vulnerable without being fragile. You can suffer and still remain whole. This is what Jung meant by being untouchable without losing your humanity. The people who seem most genuinely strong aren't the ones with walls around their hearts. They're the ones who've learned to dance with their contradictions, who've turned their wounds into wisdom, who've found that transparent shielding that protects without isolating. This isn't a destination you reach once and you're done. It's a daily practice of choosing growth over comfort, wholeness over perfection, integration over avoidance. So here's my question for you. Where in your life do you feel you most need this balance between strength and vulnerability? What situation is calling you to hold the tension instead of choosing sides? Because the journey to becoming truly untouchable while keeping your heart open starts with that first brave step of refusing to choose between your strength and your sensitivity. You can have both. You deserve both. Thank you for staying with me till the end of this video. Join our growing community of self-awakening individuals by subscribing to ThinkDeep Studiox for more psychological and self-awareness contents.